Hello everyone, welcome back to Africa Explored. Please, if you are new here or just stumbled upon our videos, hit that subscribe button to stay updated on all our latest content. Subscribing helps us grow and create more awesome stuff for you. Let me tell you something, in the grand, often chaotic theater of global politics, every now and then, a leader steps onto the stage and just rips up the script. Everyone expects them to follow the same old lines, the ones written by history, by power, by bigger nations, but this leader, they look at the script. They look at their people, and they choose their people. This is the story of Botswana's president, a man who didn't just govern, he reimagined what a nation could be. He took a look at the rulebook left behind by the colonial masters, a rulebook designed to keep his country small and manageable, and he didn't just tear out a few pages. No, he set the whole thing on fire. And from those ashes, he started building something new, something the world simply wasn't ready for. It was a move that sent shockwaves from London to Washington. To understand why the president's actions were so shocking, you have to understand the chains he was trying to break. Before independence, Botswana was the Bechuanaland Protectorate, which sounds less like a country and more like a wildlife reserve managed by Britain, and in many ways that's how it was treated. The British weren't there to build a new society, they were there to protect their interests, mainly by making sure the territory didn't fall into the hands of the Boers in South Africa or the Germans in Namibia. It was a strategic pawn in their great imperial chess game. The laws they put in place weren't for the benefit of the Botswana people. They were designed for control and extraction, creating a system of dependency. The colonial legal system was a masterpiece of subjugation. Imagine living in your own home, but all the important rules are made by a landlord who lives thousands of miles away and has never met you. That was the reality. The laws dictated who could own land, who could mine for resources, and who could participate in the economy. Unsurprisingly, the answer was almost never the local people. The best land was set aside for the crown, and any mineral wealth discovered was, by law, the property of the British Empire. The first truly shocking move came swiftly and decisively. The president looked at the foundation of all wealth and power, the land, and he upended a century of colonial law with one bold declaration. Under the old system, vast swaths of the country were crown lands, belonging to the British monarch. Upon independence, these automatically became state lands. But the president went a step further. He championed and passed the Tribal Land Act, a revolutionary piece of legislation that took control of the land away from the central government and placed it into the hands of local land boards, run by and for the people of each district. This was unheard of. This wasn't just a symbolic gesture, it was a radical redistribution of power. For the first time, ordinary Botswana had a direct say in how their ancestral lands were managed and allocated. The law ensured that every citizen had a right to land for housing, for farming, for their livelihood, free of charge. It was a direct assault on the colonial principle that land was a commodity to be controlled by a distant, powerful elite. The president's argument was simple. You cannot be a free person if you do not have a place to call your own. This act alone sent a message to the world that Botswana would not be playing by the old rules. The land belonged to the people, period. The international fallout was immediate. Critics, particularly those with vested interests in the old system, cried foul. Just after independence, one of the world's richest diamond pipes was discovered at Orapa. For any other poor, newly independent nation, this would have been a resource curse waiting to happen. The standard playbook was simple. A big multinational corporation like De Beers would come in, extract the wealth, give the government a tiny royalty, and leave behind a big hole in the ground. The country would remain poor, while the company's shareholders got rich. Everyone expected Botswana to sign the standard, lopsided deal. It was, after all, in no position to negotiate. Or so the world thought. This is where the president delivered his second and perhaps most stunning shock. Instead of rolling over, Botswana's president and his team entered the negotiations with De Beers with an audacious demand. They didn't just want a small cut, they demanded a partnership. They argued that the diamonds were the birthright of the Botswana people, not just a commodity. After long, tense negotiations, they secured a deal that was unprecedented in the history of resource extraction. The government of Botswana would not only get a significant share of the revenues, but would also be a joint owner in the mining company itself, which became known as Debswana. This meant they had a seat at the table, a voice in the decisions, and a direct stake in the profits. This move was pure genius, and it fundamentally altered the nation's trajectory. With the land secured and the diamond revenue flowing, the president focused on constructing a new Botswana. He knew that a nation is more than just borders on a map, it's a shared idea, a common purpose. He articulated this vision through what became known as the four national principles: democracy, development, self-reliance, and unity. These weren't just catchy slogans for posters, they were the architectural blueprint for the entire country. Every law passed, every school built, every policy enacted had to be measured against these four pillars. They became the nation's moral compass, guiding it away from the wreckage of its colonial past. Democracy was the first pillar. The president was deeply committed to building a multi-party constitutional democracy at a time when many of his African peers were succumbing to the temptations of the one-party state or military rule. He fostered an environment of free speech, a free press, and regular fair elections. Development was the second, and it was defined in human terms. It wasn't just about GDP growth, it was about improving the quality of life for every single citizen. Self-reliance, or boipuso, was a call for Botswana to take charge of their own development, to move away from a mentality of dependency on foreign aid. Unity, or kagisano, was perhaps the most important in a continent often torn apart by tribal conflict. These high-level decisions, about land, diamonds, and national principles, weren't just abstract political maneuvers. They had a profound and immediate impact on the lives of ordinary people. For a farmer in a remote village, the Tribal Land Act meant he no longer had to fear losing his ancestral grazing grounds. He could now officially secure his plot, invest in it, and pass it on to his children, creating generational security that had been impossible before. For a mother, the new policies meant she could send her children to primary school for free, giving them a chance at a future she could only dream of. The school wasn't miles away, it was right there in her village, built with diamond money. The changes rippled through every aspect of society. When someone in the family got sick, they no longer had to rely on traditional remedies alone or travel for days to a mission hospital. New government clinics, staffed with trained nurses and stocked with medicine, were being built in communities across the country. Access to clean water became a national priority, with the government drilling boreholes and laying pipes to bring this life-giving resource to villages that had relied on seasonal rivers for centuries. These weren't luxuries, they were the basic building blocks of a dignified life, and they were being delivered systematically and efficiently. The economic landscape also began to transform. With a stable government, clear laws, and a commitment to fighting corruption, Botswana became an attractive place for investment. Small business loan programs were established, empowering citizens to become entrepreneurs. A young person with a good idea could now get the capital to start a small shop, a transport business, or a craft cooperative. The principle of self-reliance was being put into practice, creating a new class of business owners and a growing middle class that was the engine of the new economy. A key part of the president's revolution was his relentless war on corruption. He understood that corruption was a cancer that could eat away at the nation's soul and steal its future. From the very beginning, he insisted on a culture of transparency and accountability that was radical for its time and place. He established strong, independent institutions like the Directorate on Corruption and Economic Crime, giving it the power to investigate anyone, no matter how powerful. This sent a clear message: no one was above the law. The nation's resources were for the nation, not for the private enrichment of its leaders. This commitment to clean government was woven into the fabric of the state. Government contracts were awarded through a transparent bidding process, not through backroom deals with cronies. The president himself lived a modest lifestyle, setting a powerful example for the rest of the civil service. This fiscal prudence and ethical governance meant that the diamond wealth actually reached its intended targets: the schools, the clinics, the roads. The president also championed new laws that expanded the rights of all citizens, particularly women. He recognized that a nation could not reach its full potential if half of its population was left behind. New legislation was passed to ensure women's rights to property ownership, to inheritance, and to equal participation in the economy and in politics. These weren't just token gestures, they were fundamental changes that empowered women to become leaders in their communities and key drivers of the nation's progress. Ultimately, the government the president built was one that respected its citizens. It was based on the traditional Botswana concept of kagotla, a community meeting where everyone has a right to speak their mind freely, and decisions are made through consensus. This spirit was scaled up to the national level. The government saw its role not as a ruler but as a custodian of the people's trust and resources. This deep-seated respect for the individual, combined with an unwavering intolerance for corruption, created a model of governance that was stable, effective, and profoundly democratic, proving that good governance was not a Western monopoly, but a universal aspiration. As the decades passed, the world, which had once smirked, began to watch Botswana with awe and admiration. The country that was once one of the world's poorest had transformed itself into one of Africa's most prosperous and stable nations. It consistently ranked as the least corrupt country on the continent and boasted one of its highest rates of economic growth. The doomsayers who predicted chaos and failure were proven spectacularly wrong. Botswana had become an undeniable success story, a shining exception to the depressing narrative of post-colonial failure. The question on everyone's lips was, how did they do it? Botswana's journey offered a powerful, alternative blueprint for development in Africa and beyond. It demonstrated that a nation's natural resources did not have to be a curse, they could be a blessing, provided they were managed with foresight, integrity, and a steadfast commitment to the public good. It showed that it was possible to negotiate with powerful multinational corporations and win a fair deal that benefits the country, not just the company. The Botswana model became a case study taught in business schools around the world, a testament to the power of bold negotiation and national ownership. More than just an economic model, Botswana provided a political one. It proved that democracy could not only survive but thrive in an African context. Against the backdrop of coups, civil wars, and dictatorships in neighboring countries, Botswana remained a beacon of peace, stability, and constitutional rule. It showed that a commitment to human rights, the rule of law, and a free press were not obstacles to development, but were, in fact, essential ingredients for it. The nation's success challenged the paternalistic notion that African countries needed a strong man to guide them, and instead proved the strength of institutions over individuals. The story of Botswana's rise is a story of hope. It serves as a powerful counter-narrative to Afro-pessimism. It is a testament to the power of visionary leadership and the wisdom of trusting in one's own people. It shows that a nation's destiny is not predetermined by its past or its geography. With courage, integrity, and a clear vision, it is possible to break the chains of history and build a new future. In the end, the story of Botswana's transformation is the story of audacious choices. It's a story of a leader who refused to accept the hand he was dealt by history. He didn't just play the game better, he changed the rules of the game entirely. Where others saw a poor, landlocked desert, he saw a nation of proud people deserving of a better future. He looked at the colonial laws designed to keep his country on its knees, and with surgical precision and unwavering resolve, he dismantled them one by one. He replaced a system of extraction and dependency with one of ownership, investment, and self-reliance. The legacy of these shocking decisions is etched into the very landscape of modern Botswana. It's seen in the paved roads that connect the country, in the schools buzzing with children, and in the clinics that provide care to its citizens. It's felt in the country's political stability, its economic prosperity, and its profound social cohesion. The president proved that the most valuable resource a nation has is not the diamonds under the ground, but the potential within its people. By investing every ounce of the nation's wealth into unlocking that potential, he created a legacy that will endure long after the last diamond is mined. This journey was not about one man. It was about an idea. The idea that a government's primary sacred duty is to its own people. It was about proving that an African nation could forge its own path, guided by its own principles, and achieve extraordinary success. The president's actions were shocking not because they were radical in a vacuum, but because they were so radically sensible, so fundamentally just in a world that had come to expect so little from African leadership. He showed that integrity is not a weakness, but the ultimate strength. Today, as we look at a world still grappling with inequality, corruption, and the long shadows of colonialism, the story of Botswana shines brighter than ever. It is more than just a historical account. It is a living, breathing blueprint for progress. It is an enduring source of inspiration, a reminder that courageous leadership and an unshakable faith in people can, quite literally, change the world. The Lion of Botswana, once a quiet protectorate, now roars on the world stage, not with aggression, but with the quiet, confident pride of a nation that built its own destiny.